Alright, so we are back. Now if you were not in the previous tutorial, I would advise you go back, just pause this and go back to the previous tutorial and watch it so that you can follow along with this second part of this series. Alright, so in the last tutorial we made our graph setup of these spheres and added dynamics to it. Then we cached the dynamic, and that is what we did, pretty much what we did last tutorial. So this next tutorial we are going to talk about lighting and adding force to some of the objects. Alright, let's get to it. So the first thing we are going to do here is to, let me back this out, is to have our render setting in place before we start adding the lights and all that. Alright, so I'm going to go to the render, make it physical. Now because I'm going to be checking my renders, I'm going to make it, click on the physical and change the sampler to progressive, so I can have progressive mode. Right now we don't have subsurface, so I'm going to reduce that, make it 0, and blurriness fine. Now, like I always do in my previous tutorials, in all of my tutorials I have to take off this blurriness, take off this default lights, and make this 3. I said 10. Alright, so we are going to, because we are going to be doing a test render, so I'm going to change this. I'm going to log that ratio, then divide it by 2, so I'm going to have a fairly low value to be working with. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a global illumination to it. Then the global illumination I'm going to change to low, the radius cache, then reduce the maximum rate to 0 because of training purpose, make this 2, and that is pretty much everything I need here for this. Then for me to have this, I'm going to create another, I'm going to go to my window, create a new view panel. So this new view panel is going to hold my sphere. So now I can't see the sphere here because the sphere, remember in the previous tutorial we made the project setting, the dynamic, to the negative side, so the sphere went up, and so here I need to also find the sphere. So if I select this view, hit S on my keyboard, it goes to that, then we have that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a camera here. So I'm going to select this view first. Once I have this view selected, create a camera, make sure I go into the camera. So now if I'm moving here, it doesn't affect what I have here. So I want to do in such a way that every time I move here, it affects here also. So what I'm going to do is, I have the camera set here. I will select this view, then go to the camera, go to use camera 1. So once I have that, then I'm going to also go back to view, use as render view. So this is going to be my render view, while this is going to be my navigation view. So if I come here and I navigate, it affects here. If I'm moving, notice what happens. So every time I do anything here, I'm going to be getting a feedback of it here. So I'm going to dock this here, so you can have fairly okay. So I think this is okay. I can drag this a little bit here so that the aspect ratio is not that bad. So that is pretty much how my workflow for the setup. So once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is start adding lights to the scene. So the first type of light I'm going to add is a skylight. So I'm going to click on sky. Now for me to have the render showing here, I'm going to select this view. So once I have this view selected, I'm going to click on this, go to interactive render, then interactive render comes here. I can drag this so that it covers the whole frame. So there is an arrow here that will allow me set the quality of the render I get here. So if I move the quality up, you're going to see that the quality becomes better than that. So alright, so we have this. So the next thing I'm going to do is, on my sphere I need to add an HDRI. So I'm going to look for an HDRI. I already have an HDRI, so I'm just dragging this here. Then I will go into the sky, right click on this, apply. So make sure the sky is selected, apply, then it applies it to the sky. I'm going to see everything here. So if I zoom in here, notice also have effect here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this sky, then go to the editor, make sure I change it to no scaling, then go to the illumination, click on this polygon light. By the way, I'm using R20, so it is renamed to polygon light. In R19 was area light. So I'm beginning to see the interaction of the shadow and where you have this. So I can go to where the frame that I like. I think I like the way this object is, the way it is distributed here in a V format. So that is fine. So I might need to get close to it for me to have that. Okay, so that is the first form of light that I'm going to have. The next thing is I'm going to add an area light. So if I come here, click on this light, choose an area light. Let's move the light up. So come here, go to the light and go to the y-axis, move the light up until I'm fine here. Now I will drag this light somewhere here and bring it out. So I want to have the effect of the light so I want this light to interact with this. So I'm going to rotate it such that the z-axis is pointing at the object here, somewhere here. Then change E to change it to move to. Then I can move this out backwards. So what I'm going to do to the light, select the light, go to the general, change the shadow type to area shadow. Now if you look at the HDRI lights, you have a form of yellow hue on in the HDRI. So I'm going to have the same effect. I want to have an oranges yellow hue. So that is what I'm going to get here, and a little bit more orangish, yellowish. So I think I like that, but I don't want the effect of this sky. The effect of the sky is still much, so we don't really see the fading off of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the sky, double click on it, go to the luminance, and take off this. Now make the luminance, add a background, add a light that is close to the sky. So I'm going to sample the sky. So once I have the sky sampled here, so I can make this image, multiply it, make it a multiply, change the mix mode from normal to multiply, so it has effects to this. So I can also drag this down so that I can have an evening feel of that. So as soon as I'm done with that, you tend to see the effect here that okay, the light is getting intense here. So I may need to reduce the light to 70. And let's see what we have. And okay, maybe the sky should come up a little bit, just Okay, I think I like this effect. I think I like this. Alright, so that is basically my light setup here. So we don't see the interaction because no material has been added to this object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, just randomly select some of the spheres here. We won't talk about the next thing, which is the 4. Adding 4 to your object. I am going to simulate hair and make it 4, not hair. So if I go to 4, the object, click on this, then I'm going to go to this sphere. Now the 4 will be added to this object. Then I will make this value 50 if it's not much, let's say 40. Then by default we have 10. We have 10,000. So I want to increase this to 100,000. So let's see what we have. 100,000 here, or 4 on the object. So you will start to see how the 4 is going to look like on this object. So you are beginning to get a very dense 4 on that sphere. So I think that is good. So what we want to do is I could make this 35, then change the variation of the length. So we want to have a variation of 5 centimeter. So I'm going to be having some hair grow to 40 and some hair get below 35, which is like 30. So the value I'm going to be having is a plus or minus 5. So you can have hair which has a length of 30 up to hair which has a length of 40. It's just to try to create irregularity and on our object. Then randomize the hair. The strand of the hair shouldn't be straight. You want to randomize it. So I want to make it 5 degrees. So some will go at 5 degrees and all that. So we have that. So now that I have this, that is pretty much how you add 4 to this. But if you look at the 4 we have here now, everything is just straight up. Everything is, all the strands, they are straight and no form of fluffy feel and coil and all that. So for us to do that, that can be done in the 4. So if I double click on the 4 material, now the first section is the color, where you can add color to this. So if I want to have a gradient of color, I can say okay, I want, now by the way, the color ranging from the root to the tip. So any color you have here is going to be for the root, and any color you have here is going to be for the tip. So let's just add some colors here so we can see them. So this is this, and I want it to go to green or lemon feel. So we have this transition from this to this. So if you check what is happening now, you notice that the tip of the hair is becoming green, and as it goes down it becomes reddish. So I can decide to tighten this up, so I have the effect more of the red and just less of the green. So that is that. So I'm going to go through the settings and turn on some of the things that I need here. So for the thickness, I don't want the thickness to be 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter is too thick, so I want to have 0.3 to this. Then the variation, I don't really need any variation. Then I'll go to freeze. I'm going to activate freeze. What freeze does is to, alright, so what's happening now, my system is the interactive render is slowing down my system, so I may need to turn off the interactive render. So click on this, turn it off. So I'm going to have a fairly fast. So if I click on the freeze, you see what happens. I'm trying to get an irregularity. Everything doesn't go uniform. You see, the coiling is not that uniform, so some are going out of position and all that. So Kernk will try to create roughness at the tip, which you can see here. Alright, okay. Then what I'm also going to add is add a bend. So I'm going to have bend. So for the bend, I can bend it even more. So let's say 35. Then I can twist also. So twist, angle, the kink and all that. So I tend to use this default setting. And now if I'm to check this now, I can come here, do a region render, just render this region and see what I get. Alright, so you can already see that the tip is green and the distance of the grain tip is small compared to the roots. You notice you can still see the green fading to yellow and to the green, sorry, the red fading through to from the yellow to the green. So you can already see that, and I feel this hair is longer, it's too long. I need to reduce this, and I'm going to also use that opportunity to change this color. So to show you that if you have a custom design, let's say you have an artwork that I want to paste on this object, how can you work with that? So I'm just going to do both now. So click on A to start, then double click here. I'm going to look for some of the my desktop. I have artworks that I downloaded, so we can look at one of these artworks. Yeah, so let's look at I don't know, what should we choose? Let's see this parrot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the parrot. Don't forget, in your color channel, drag the parrot to this texture field. No, then that takes that, but then it's just taking the texture but not putting into account the tip and the root. So what we're going to do is come to the roots, drag this same texture to the roots. So if I drag this to the roots, I'm going to have this. Then automatically it's going to be added to the tip because it's saying as the root. So if I want to have a different texture, I need to just uncheck this, add a different texture to the tip, but I want it to be consistent. So that is that. That is how you add a texture to your image. So another thing is, if you don't want to have this color or this fur in all parts of this sphere, you can use the density. So basically, density is just like using the alpha channel, whereby everywhere you have white is has a texture or material or fur, while everywhere you have black does not have fur. So if I'm to go to, let's assume, okay, let's make it something. Let me start with this so you can see, have a feel of what I'm talking about. Brick or checkerboard. A checkerboard, what will happen is that everywhere you have this white, you have 4, and everywhere you have this red, you don't have 4. So let's make this 2, 2. So we have that. So another thing I'm going to do is I said I was going to reduce this 4. So select the 4, reduce the length to 20. I think that is okay. So let's see what we're going to have. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of global illumination just for this render, just to see this fast. So I'm going to do render region, and let's see what we have. So you can already see what I talked about. Everywhere you have that white, you have 4, and everywhere you have black, you have nothing. So you just use that to illustrate to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a noise, and the noise I'm not going to have. Let's go for displays. Oh no, place the turbulence. Okay, let's make this 500 and change the seed. So I'm going to have a fairly less black, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to play with grayish color so that everywhere I have very white color, the hair will be to its maximum length, and as it goes to gray color, the length of the hair gets reduced. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain here. So everywhere you have a very black, everywhere you have 100% black, no hair. But if you have a gray color, then the length of the hair is going to be corresponding to the hue of the color. So I want to have a very, so yes, you have something like this. I don't want to have a place where everything goes off, so I feel this is okay, somewhat like this. So I'm going to close that. Then let's do another test render. Okay, this is already taking long, and I feel I need to stop the tutorial. So what I'm going to do after now is, you can already see how the 4 is interacting, and you've added the 4 to this object and it's already interacting. You can see the material we added, and some parts will be low while some parts will be high because of the density we have added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this and stop the tutorial here. Before I come for the next tutorial, I would have added different 4 systems to different parts. Obviously I don't want to have one sphere have this 4. I want to have the 4 rather. I want to have like 4 more spheres having the 4 system. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this 4. Okay, let's just do that so I can. So let's call this 1. Okay, let me duplicate this 2, 3, 4. So we'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we already have 4 here, and that is to the 1. So for 2, and don't forget, you are also going to duplicate the materials because we're going to be having different materials. If you are using the same material, you can just use that. But because I'm going to having different materials, I'm going to duplicate this so that I have different materials. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to be fairly fast here. So double click this, go to the density. I can change the seed so everything doesn't appear to be the same for this. So go to the color, go and bring another artwork. So let me bring in this elephant, then go to the roots, drag the elephant here. That's for 2. Bring the 2 on this 2. So I'm going to speed up this so you can. So basically I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to speed up, then I'll be back. Alright, so I'm done with the materials and all that. So what I'm going to do is go to the 4 tool, click on this, select another 4. So if I want to add one here, automatically goes, go to 4 3, click on this, select another object, want to add the 4, go to 4, click on this, select another object, and go to 5, click on this arrow, and select one more object. Want to add it to where can I add, let's say one behind it. That is pretty much it. And I've added all these things. If I'm to do a test render here, you're going to see what I'm going to get. We can already see what I have there, and the reason why you're having this dark place is because we have reduced this sunlight. So if I'm to go to this and make it bright, sorry, go to the luminance, make it bright, then make it normal, then everything is, I'm going to go back to that later and change it back so we can have the effect that we had before. So just wanted you to see the details there just a bit before I stop the tutorial, and I will be back next time. Okay, I might need to turn on my global illumination and make it very small, low. If I can go below that, let's even make it 40 and even lower than that. So let's just see what we have overall. And I'm sorry this is taking longer than expected. Alright, so you already can see what we have, and all the textures are here, and I feel the 4 is, all the 4s are not really enough. So I am going to stop the tutorial. I'm going to make the 4 let's say a 500,000 4, or maybe 7, and I'm going to stop the tutorial here so you could just do yours and render, and we'll be back in the next tutorial with this setting. Alright, thank you, bye.